One of the biggest questions that still is going on in the automotive space, and probably for most businesses regarding their internet sales process, is who handles those opportunities. So for automotive dealers, who are a majority of my clients, they're constantly trying to figure out, should it be the salespeople or do I need a BDC, a business development center? So I'm going to answer those questions today with the help of Robin Wilson. She is a founder of Epic BDC, and they are an outsourced BDC in the automotive space, helping dealers understand how to maximize those opportunities. And what I found really impressive, and you'll find this in the episode in a few moments, is the fact that when I asked Robin about outsourcing a BDC, she said if a dealership or any business has the staff, the expense, and the space to have their own BDC in-house, that she says that is always the best way to go. And I found that so refreshing versus her saying, no, bring everything to me. So I think you'll have a great time. She is a phenomenal speaker. She's so passionate about this. And so I'm so glad that you joined us today on You're in Charge Now What, the podcast that helps you become the leader that you want to be. Each week we're here with guests like Robin, providing tactical strategies, tactical things that you can do right away to help improve your performance or your team's performance. And today we're going to tackle that topic of who should be handling your lead generation. So let's dive into today's episode with Robin Wilson. All right, Robin, thank you so much for joining me. Big fan of yours, and you were the perfect person to join me today because I've been out on the road working with dealers, consulting, and helping them connect their marketing to their internet sales process. And I'm just seeing still a lot of confusion. I would have thought in some ways we were further out and further down the road, but I'm still running across these questions of what's the best process for my store? How do I figure it out? So like I said, I'm bringing you here to help answer the questions. How do I handle my internet opportunities? So thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. I'm honored to be here as well. And, everyone thinks there's one perfect answer, and there really isn't. It depends on, whether you want to run as an internet department, you want them to take them cradle to grave, that really has to be in-house. You have to have those experts that are right there on the ground. Or if you're just really need that lead management because, your sales team's not going to do it, that's a whole different solution. And honestly, in-house BDC is 100% always the best choice if you can do it, because they have access to resources, they have relationships with your managers and with your sales team, and they have the ability to hand off when they know it's time to do that thing. And so if you have the wherewithal, if you've got the talent in your town to draw from, you've got a great manager because those people must be managed by the hour. And you've got the space and the expenses. You've got the budget to allow for an in-house BDC. I will always tell you that's always the best solution.
Well, so right off the bat, you took one of my later questions, but I love that because also for someone who's running an outsourced BDC, who's basically saying, I'm the solution if you can't do it yourself, to be able to say, my first recommendation is do it yourself. I think that shows a lot of integrity because there are a lot of people who are like, oh, no, just give it to me and let me do it. So let's talk about, take a step back because you touched on a few things.
Sure.
This idea of the BDC or having a group of people that are doing a portion of the communication outreach to a potential customer. You and I were talking before we went on back in the day, as we would say, where salespeople took care of all of that. Their job was to reach out, set an appointment, bring them in, sell them a car. And now for some reason, we've split this duty. Some ways people will say it's more efficient. I can find more experts who are better at setting appointments and maybe selling a car, in this case, face to face, doing face to face sales. So for you, what why do you think BDCs came about? Do you think that when you said having this, running an internet sales team, which is someone's handling the opportunity online, bringing them in and selling them the car, where do you see this evolution of BDCs where now it's not even they're more
Commonplace.
prevalent than, say, internet sales teams?
For sure. And, you and I, Boomer, are old enough to go back to when, the internet started. Like
Right,
not a lot of these people, right? So if you think about car sales back then, right? It was newspaper ads, TV ads, billboards. That's all they had. There was no lead generation machine, because where would they be generating them to? Like they were
right,
just trying to generate a phone call or showroom traffic, people that just drove onto the lot. That's back in the olden days, right? So whenever lead management came into play is whenever online marketing became a thing, right? And people had websites and they had a place to, and we started going, oh my gosh, we have a website. Let's capture these leads. Oh, these leads are coming in. Now what do we do with them? Who's going to handle them? Well, let the receptionist handle them. And so the evolution, I'm sure, started something like that before it came down to where it's at right now. And what I have discovered about humanity is that in the automotive space, in lead handling, there's two types of people. And there are the people who are really comfortable face to face. Like
right,
they are really good face to face, and they can build a relationship with you in just a few seconds face to face and walk you down the pathway of buying a vehicle, make you feel comfortable, show you all the features and benefits of the car, and they can do that thing. And I'm telling you, they will start sweating if you put a phone in their hand and go, I need you to start calling some people and do whatever.
right.
Like so call averse. And then if you look at people who are naturally really good on the phones, they will get so awkward when you ask for them to come out. Because I did work at a dealership where they would bring, some of the BDC agents would come out and meet the clients when they got there. And they were just like, they would be so panicky
So
when it
nervous,
happened.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, because they're not those people. So knowing as a dealer that there are two different types of people, and it's very rare that you have one that is really good at both. I mean, it's rare. It's a unicorn. And I would say probably if you have 15 salespeople, you may have one unicorn in there that's really good on the phones with the follow-up and really good face to face. And so once we discover that, then you go, okay, then I'm going to hire a person to start calling these leads that are coming in. I'm sure is how the evolution happened. We better hire somebody because I've got 300 leads sitting there and I paid for them and they drove them in here. Now what do I do with them? And
right.
so the evolution happens like that. I think in the big and the long of all of it, that the salespeople are generally um, they're call averse. Like they don't want to do that task. And so to give them that task when you know that they don't want to do it and they're not going to do it well,
But do you
why would
think it's
you for those
calling,
leads?
or do you think it's all the other communications jumping into the CRM? I have to text, I have to prospect with an email, because I think there's some people that said, "Hey, here's a list of people, call." I'm not sure they would be that averse, where I had a salesperson, again, more of a veteran, who said his quote was, that seems like secretarial work or busy work, not sales work. And that was the way he phrased it. And he didn't mean it detrimental to anybody who
Right.
does those. He just looked at it and said, but I need to be in front of people. If you give me somebody calling me, I can do what I do. But he thought this was more of a waste of his time doing that. So I think, to your point, is, you have these people who are more aligned with it. And I think CRMs have gotten more complex, and the
Oh,
needs
wow.
and the workflows and everything else like that. So you need someone dedicated to doing this in order to generate conversations and opportunities.
Well, if you think about our contact rate, right? So even if I gave that salesperson 100 leads to call, and if your contact rate is somewhere, let's just say it's strong. Let's say it's a strong 20% contact rate that you're going to call them and they're going to pick up. So of those 100 that they call, 20 will answer. And now they've got to have 20 conversations with people about what they're looking for. If they don't hang up on them and tell them that they don't have the time right now,
Right.
and if their egos can take being rejected that many times over the phone, because it's a lot. I don't even know how some of these agents do it here. But then it's the follow-up, right? So today you dialed 100, You probably left messages for some of them. Hopefully, you left messages. And then you got a hold of 20, and now you have to do some action in the CRM. Not interested, already bought a car, um, is on vacation. Whatever the thing is, you have to do all of those secretarial tasks, right? Putting all of that stuff back into the CRM. And then you have to schedule what's the next task. If they were on vacation, they're going to be back next week. I'll schedule a follow-up call for them then. It's a lot. And then you have to work in your CRM and then go, okay, what follow-up calls? Not only do I have now the new 100 calls that I have to make that my manager gave me, but I've still got 17 follow-ups from the ones I made last week.
Right.
And move the lot and sticker the cars and, and we've all been in a dealership. So we know that there's a lot of things that go on that are, we call it an interruption rich environment that stop you from doing the thing that you really don't want to do, which is, work the leads. And so we found that a dedicated team, whether in the dealership or outsourced in my office or in somebody else's office, and honestly, does it really make a difference? Because I don't know many managers that literally walk into the BDC and hang out with them anyway. So what do you care if I'm in Joplin, Missouri, or if I'm in New Jersey?
Right.
What, you don't come and see me. Why do you care where my office is? But we found that those dedicated people, those people that are really good on the phones, are really good with the follow-up too. Like they don't care. They're going to just keep calling, texting, and emailing those customers until they get a sign of life. And then like our motto is always acts like it's the last time you're ever going to get that customer on the phone. Find out everything that you need to do, solve every issue that they have, take any action that you can as if you will never get them again, because sometimes you won't.
Right.
And I don't know that a sales staff is trained well enough to do those things and to get them all the way to the end. And I think that we see that when general sales staffs, I don't want to generalize everybody, but general sales staffs handle leads, the follow-up, it never makes it past day 2. And even if they had a task like, hey, I'm going to send you the video on that Toyota Tacoma. Then a real life customer walks in, the video never gets sent.
Right.
All of those things. It's just so interruption rich. And it's not the salespeople's fault that they are a different breed. And it's not the manager's fault that they hate training on phone scripts and how they have the salespeople to do that stuff either. It's just they're two different ways of life. And the people that will work in a BDC all day long and hammer the phones and, get yelled at, get cussed at, have them call back crying when they're so excited that they got to buy a car, or have them call back mad when they didn't get one. And you told me I could have one. It's a beat up life. And so the drama that comes along with it and the turnover, because it's a burnout kind of job. It's not a career path for most people. The dealerships don't generally want to work with that turnover and that constant training of the new people that will come in to fill that slot.
So you touched on a couple things as you were talking, and I've seen very similar things. So what it sounds like you're saying, and I agree with you, is that the dealership of today has moved forward, meaning that the majority of your opportunities are coming through internet and phone versus people just wandering in. And I'm even still a little bit, I don't know. I'm a little, think that sometimes some of the showroom up numbers, like I have a hard time believing that there were all of these people who came in that were not in your CRM, but let's just assume they are. Right. But it's pivoting your energy of saying, I need 2 different types of people today, where before you could get by with one. Now I need to, because to what you were saying earlier is previously pre-internet, early internet, the majority still came in through phones and walking in, which went into the strengths of that salesperson. Right. And now it's flipped, where now we need a skill set of someone who can work in the computer, be detailed, put notes, follow a workflow, be good on the phones. And so stepping back now, we have to say, okay, well, this is the reality. We have to staff our teams potentially differently. So one of the questions I get a lot, and I have a list of a couple questions from some dealers because they knew you were going to be on the show. How many opportunities? Because going back to you were saying earlier, if I want to sell a certain number of cars, pick a number, 200, you and I were saying before. Well, you have to reverse engineer back. Well, how many people does that mean have to show up for their appointments? How many appointments do I set? How many conversations do I have? Hence, how many leads? And you can backtrack to that. I'm constantly still asked the question of, well, how many people do I really need? And it always seems like they don't want to invest and staff that front line, which is the BDC, correctly, but yet we'll have 10 salespeople waiting for two
One
people
up.
to walk
Yeah.
in the front door, you know. So what, there's a lot there, but
Right.
in terms of staffing, how would you help somebody come to that realization of how many people you need?
So there are some variables, and I'm just going to give you some generalities again too. So the numbers that we go off of, it really depends on your cadence that you have set up in your CRM, right? So we're pretty heavy on the front 7 days. The front 3 days really heavy because we know that behavioral says that by the time they put a lead in, they didn't just put it in with you. They probably put a lead in on 3 different websites, and so speed to the lead and how fast we can get them in the showroom. If they're going to be making a buying decision, it'll be within that 72-hour window. So we know that right off the bat. So our cadence is pretty heavy on those first 3 days, and then it gets lightened up, and we run a 60-day cadence. So I'm telling you all of that for a reason. So let's say you have 500 leads coming in, and I would say two BD agents would be really good for that. And you're like, that seems like a lot. But if you think about the fact that you're going to have a lot of this stuff rolling over into the next month, right? So, and then the next month, that one agent is going to be getting another 250 leads. Now, my team works off of 350 leads because we have a software that's a task manager. Even though we work in the CRMs as well, we have a software called Sweet Relish that serves our leads up for us. They're not having to go and hand dial anything. But 250 to 350 leads per human. And you have to remember, you have to count for someone's going to call in sick, somebody's going to need a day off. Is the other agent that's going to be covering that day going to be covering those leads that come in for both teams all day long? But as those tasks pile up, because it isn't like just one call, it's like call, text, email, right? That's generally what a cadence is within your CRM: call, text, email, call, text, email. And so if you think about every contact needs those 3 actions done to it and notes put in the CRM, and those will start accumulating as the months go on, and these ones roll from this month to that month. And so they're going to end up with a pile of undone tasks not completed if you give them any more than that.
Right. So, and one of the other caveats I would say, it depends if they're answering phones too, because
True.
sometimes then the BDC says, well, they answer all the inbound calls. And now I'm going, well, then you have to give them less
Right, because
because
that's 100% contact rate, right? Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
So those 250 leads that are coming in, they may be only speaking to 50 of them if they're running a 20% contact rate, but if they're taking inbound calls as well, and actions have to be taken on those 50 that they did get a hold of, and other actions have to be taken on the 200 they didn't get a hold of.
Right. And see, I think that's where that idea of understanding what the BDC does and sometimes I think there is a disconnect. You passed over it, in your earlier conversation, and I wanted to highlight that where you were saying, who cares where I'm at because you as a manager is not going to pop in, which I see a lot of a disconnect. I find very successful BDCs have a very good relationship with the sales team and the sales managers, and it seems like they're two sides of one coin. We are working together in tandem as I'm going to set it up. I'm going to hand it off to you. But
Mhm.
if I need numbers, you got to get me numbers. If I need a video, you get me videos. And there is a sense of urgency that this online customer is a true customer. It isn't as if, well, I still hear it not as often, but you still hear, if they were serious, they'd come here. And I'm going, well, then why do you use Amazon? And
Right,
they look at me. I said, I saw Uber Eats bring you lunch.
right. Why
Why'd you
didn't you
use
go
that?
there?
If you were really serious, actually, if you were really serious, I said this to a group of salespeople. They looked at me a little odd. I said, if you were really serious, you would have made your own food.
Mm. That makes sense.
Right? You would have made your own food if you're really serious. But then, secondly, then you would have driven to the place to make sure it's the right food if it was. But now you're using, and they said, well, it's because it's convenient, it's easy. I said, well, that's the reality of today is I can sit on my couch and I can get a price for my trade-in. I can, most
Right.
digital retailing or tools allow me to start my own deal. I can get pre-approved. I can do a majority of it. Theoretically, I can do it all the way through, even though I still think a majority of people still want to come in and do the test drive. They just want to get rid of all this busy work so I don't have to wait in the dealership for a long time. But to your point, these are serious shoppers, and how you treat them online, I believe, is how they feel you're going to treat them when they show up to the store. So one of the things I hear that caused this disconnect, and I'd like your opinion on this, is this. Well, BDC, I don't want them selling the car. I don't want them talking about the car. They're not experts. But then when I say, well, who's in here that's the expert that can answer their questions, then it's, well, they'll come find me if they need me. I'm like, but they'll need you in the moment. So how would you, Magic Wand, or some of the stores that you've worked with, even your relationship with your outsourcer, how do you get that partnership with them to say, here's how far I want you to go, but I'm going to train you to be an expert up to that point?
Right.
If I'm making sense.
No, 100%. So it was funny because I was at VinQ's event this past week that they had in Kansas City, and we had a vendor 20 group with David Kane, and it was awesome. And one of the things that I think me as a vendor and as in a partnership with the dealership that gets missed sometimes when we're all in that romance stage of, we have solutions, you have problems, let's do this thing right here, is the you promise, I promise, right? And the I promise XYZ for you, right? And you promise, Mr. Dealer, XYZ to me. And for us, that would be that you'll get on a weekly call with my BDM, just like you would if she were in your store. You would have a meeting with your BDM. She would be part of your manager's meetings, right? So I get on a call with my BDM weekly. We go over any issues that we're having, celebrate any wins that we've had. Let me know if you have any Facebook events that you're dropping that we're not even aware of. Let me know if you've changed any lead providers, just like if I were your BDC in your dealership on your piece of pavement, right? So what we see happening is that we don't see that, and the disconnect with the salespeople. And I came from a dealership, and I'm telling you that it started with the sales manager, and the GM literally had to tell him. He goes, "Do I dock you anything if your salespeople sell a BDC up?" He goes, "Do I pay you a different pay plan?" And he's like, "No." And he goes, "Then why are you always fighting with the BDC? They're generating 90% of the traffic that your salespeople are selling, and you're fighting with the BDC and being crappy to them, and literally walking down there. And like the only time he would walk into the BDC is if he didn't see any appointments for the day, and he'd walk in and goes, "Anybody working around here?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and then if people came in, so Mr. Dealer, I'm going to talk to you again if you're listening to this. If you are running subprime ads, and your BDC is handling subprime leads, and a subprime person shows up to your dealership, and your salespeople are bringing them on the lot before they even up them and put them into the CRM, where is that disconnect? Because you have an identity crisis. If your salespeople are not behaving the way your lead magnet is working, your lead magnet is bringing this guy in, your BDC is handling him in a professional manner, treating them with the care and respect that anybody should get, bring them into the dealership, and then their experience stops right there, which means you have a problem when they hit the pavement.
Right.
And so that's generally the problem is when the traffic that's showing up, the salespeople think, "Oh my God, they couldn't buy a loaf of bread." All of the negative things that they have to say about whatever, their 10K flipped in their car. Like, we should have done all of that homework ahead of time, right? Like the BDC should have done all of the job and served them up with the golden thing. Our job is to sell appointments. Our job is not to sell cars. And I'll tell you, the majority of the time, I don't let my team discuss vehicles very much, because I know for a fact that unless we're in an A-paper market, unless I'm with an A-paper dealer that literally sells prime deals all day long, that guy that put a lead in on that red Ford F-150 is probably going home with a Toyota Yaris.
Right.
So if I spend 30 minutes going through all the features and benefits of that Ford F-150, It really doesn't matter. We need to get them in and see what fits your budget and your family and your lifestyle, sir. That's our job, is to get you in and find the perfect vehicle for you. And yeah, that Ford F-150 is pretty. And if it's still available when you get here, I'm sure you're going to get to sit in it and see if you love
Right.
it. But they shouldn't be selling the vehicle. They should be selling the appointment, leaving the sales to the sales team.
No, and I like that. And I think again there was a couple tips. So managers listening to this and BDMs listening to this, it's very important. You threw a lot of things there, and I want to pull out one or two of them. One is understanding what marketing is going on. I see it a lot where I was at a dealership two weeks ago, and I sent somebody over to the service department. They needed to go get something. They came back with this flyer that had all of these specials on it. And I said, "What's that?" They go, "I don't know, but it was over in the service department." I said, "Well, you should have this." And I went to the manager and I said, "What is this?" And he's like, "Well, somebody made that." I said, "But here's the point. Any marketing that you're doing, any deals that are out there, why wouldn't you arm your BDC with it?" So again, every month, I highly recommend having either a bulletin board in the BDC, in the break room, with any ads that you're running, any Facebook, social media campaigns you're running, any specials that are running. So this way, everybody is not caught flat-footed if somebody calls up and says, "Hey,
Right.
by the way, what about this?" And you go, "I have no idea." That's just not a good thing. Secondarily, you touched on it, and I've seen a few dealerships now making this pivot, and I find it really exciting because, like you said, it's this, well, if they come see me. And a lot of times the BDC is placed way off of the floor, upstairs, in the back, wherever you have an empty office. I've seen more dealers who, like the person you were talking about, saying, "Why are you fighting with them?" My challenge to them is, well, why aren't they sitting with the sales team? So we've seen a lot of people move their reps out onto the sales floor with
like
the
it.
sales team so that they can just turn to them and say, "Hey, Robin, I got a question. Can you jump on this? Hey, can you take this?" To your point, they're asking me about this car. Let me transfer them to you. They're asking me what their trade's worth. Let me transfer them to you. But when you're upstairs hidden away, is someone going to pick up the phone? So
Mhm.
I've seen stores where their results incrementally within a month or two start moving up. One, because the managers are watching, to your point, accountability, but now we're a unified team
Right.
versus what are those people doing in the back? Are they even working? Because where are my appointments, right? And I just think it's understanding that this is the front side of what your sales process is. So don't discount it. The reason why they're there is because you've said, "I can't get my salespeople to do it." Well, but that means they're still part of the sales process.
Right.
Why wouldn't they be out there?
Right. And I think that's an ideal situation. Most of the time, I think if if people had the space, would they even do it? You know what I'm saying? Would they consider that? And they should, because getting to watch, because I think about the pressure that that would even cause on the BDC when you're over there dialing the phones, and the store that I started in had partitioned off glass walls, and there was two offices that sat right on the showroom floor, and they had their BDC right in there until they outgrew it. And the thing that they would feel is like whenever they could see that there were salespeople standing around, there was no showroom traffic. The right now, how close to right now can you be here, was
Right.
more urgent to them, right? Not that, oh, I can come in on Wednesday, and you go, you know what? I've got like 3 salespeople right now that are experts in that Kia Carnival. Like, if you could get here right now, I have 2 right now that are ready to go. Like, can you take your lunch break? Like, that urgency to fill that showroom.
But they're
But when you,
working as a team. That's
yeah,
exactly
but
what you're
if you
saying
can't
is
see
now.
it,
Exactly.
you can't see the showroom. Like, if you don't even have a camera in your BDC that shows you the showroom so that you could even see, like, nothing's going on there, or it's super busy right now, don't have anybody come in right now because everybody's tied up. Those things
Right.
are important. And we were talking about that on our managers meeting today too. One of our stores that we run outsourced BDC for has 4 salespeople. They have a lot of leads. And we were having to overcome a problem where the majority of the appointments were wanting to be happening like at 5:15 or later. And I'm like, people, I said, you guys need to look at that schedule and go, look, if there's only 4 salespeople and you're scheduling, let's say you're scheduling 15 appointments, and you have this percentage of a show rate right there, what percentage of those people are showing up at 5:15, and how many
Right.
of them are sitting there waiting now because there's nobody available to help them? And so you're not doing yourself any favors by loading up that time frame right there. I said I would probably go back through this calendar, the schedule you guys have right now, and I would call every one of them and go, "Hey, I've just had a small adjustment to your schedule. Give me, if you leave them a voicemail, give me a call back. I'm just going to move your time slot a little bit, so that you won't have to wait." I said, if you think about it, because we'll hear this in the BDC a lot. We'll hear, "Well, what time were you thinking that you wanted to come in?"
Right.
Okay, I don't call my doctor and he says, "What time were you thinking that you wanted to come in?" You know what he says? "I have an 8:15, 11. Wait, the
Right.
8:15 is booked. I have an 11. Can you make that 11?" They don't do that, right? And so if we're taking this so casually that we're letting them pick their own appointment time, that's a soft appointment and they're not showing up anyways.
Right.
And so, I don't even remember what the first question was, Glenn.
No, but
I
it's
got
that
off course.
idea. No, but it's that idea of building the team next to each other and building this camaraderie versus you against them, or
So important.
they're telling the wrong thing to them just so they get an appointment and they get compensated. There's all these up and down.
People will work that pay plan like
Well,
crazy.
everybody works a pay plan. I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure.
everybody does. So let's pivot just slightly.
Yeah.
What has changed in terms of like your workflow or your communication flow? Not necessarily the cadence,
Mhm.
but what you're saying to them. Has that evolved and changed? Because sometimes I still see the running joke is, when you want to come in, here's the car, when you want to come in. The next outreach is, "Hey, Robin, did you get my email? When you want to come in?" The third one is, "Haven't heard from you. When you coming in?" The fourth one is, if they even send it, is, "Are you still in the market?" And so I'm just trying to figure out, I know what my opinion is. I want to hear yours because you've been doing this for a long time. How has your engagement process evolved over time?
So we have 4 key questions that in our scripting have to happen, and I don't care when they happen. It's okay if they happen naturally within there at a natural time instead of we're talking about this and I just inserted something that was not even relevant. And one of them is today your first day shopping, or have you been looking for a while? Because I want to know where they are in the buying cycle. Is this vehicle for you, or are you shopping for someone else? Um, Way important. Will you be trading a vehicle in, or are you adding to your fleet?
Right.
And then up to now, especially if they say they've been looking for a while, up till now, what has stopped you from purchasing a vehicle? Because that last one, and it has to come last, is the gold. Because let's say that they're credit challenged, or they whatever, I know that's when they're going to tell you, "I'm flipped in my car, I have bad credit, I've been turned down a million other places," or we'll get the golden answer. The golden answer is, "Well, you just don't have the trim level I want." So that's an A paper buyer right there, right? They're looking at
Right.
trim level and you don't have what I want. So it tells you a story of, up till now, what has stopped you from purchasing a vehicle since you've been looking for, 30 days. And so that part of it hasn't changed. Probably a little more emphasis right now, everybody knows, is on, do you still owe on your trade? When did you purchase your vehicle? We're probably digging a little deeper right there because we know that we as an industry have buried all of our customers um, in uh, in equity.
Right.
And so that probably is really important to us right now too, just so that they know. But we know that, if they're with, let's say they're an independent, there's not much we can do to overcome that. If they're a manufacturer of OEM store, then we know that there are some manufacturer incentives that can help get them unburied.
Right.
And
Right.
and some of those lenders like Kia, Kia Credit, like, has like upped how much percentage of gross that they will do, how much they will do, 100%, 150%, whatever they will do to help get people unburied as well. So our cadence, those 4 questions haven't changed. We just dig a little deeper on some of the others
But
right
what
now,
I
knowing
love about that, and why I'm so happy you said this, so happy, is because when someone asked me to come in and look at where they're disconnected in their marketing, because they it's interesting, as I said to you earlier, is like most CRMs are just completely filled up with stuff that's not useful from some trainer 4 years ago, and they really need to just spring clean. Or one dealer had a set workflow for every lead source,
Mm.
and it was
Wow.
just bogging down. Yeah, exactly. Wow. So, but what I was really excited about is when I'm brought in and I look at just what some of the cadence or what they're saying is they're not asking questions that beg a response. Those 4 questions you just asked, everybody who's listening, their brain went to, well, here's how I would answer it, versus, hey, Robin, let me know if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is that poor person doesn't even know what questions to ask. They don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to feel like, well, if I say something, is this good or bad? Versus asking, like you said earlier about the appointment. Now, what time do you want to come in? It's, do you want, I have these openings, which fits your schedule? Or, even a trade we were playing around with. Well, Robin, we can give you a price over the phone. You can use the tools on your website, or most of our customers like to bring it in when they test drive. Which works best for you versus let me know? And they said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I was like, but what's the answer to let me know? They
Yeah.
go, and their head
Nothing.
went, I said, but if I said to you, which is best for you? And I just kept staring at them. They said, I think a price over the phone. Now we've moved the conversation forward. So I really like that. And so again, one tip for everyone who's listening, go take a look. Listen to your voicemails, what people are listening. Look at your email cadence and what's sending out, and see if you're actually asking a question that begs a conversation. Because odds are you'd be asking the questions if they were standing in front of you on the lot. But yet, why, if I send the lead in on, like you're saying, the Kia Carnival, if I pointed to a salesperson on the lot and they're going to ask me 50 questions. But if I
Mm-hmm.
submit that lead, a lot of people, the only question they're going to ask me is when you want to come in, and that's it. And then to your point is, I miss people who might be earlier in the journey
Right.
versus later in the journey.
And you know what? I think one of the biggest things, and even in BDC, like even in my BDC, so like I'm not saying our BDC is perfect. Epic BDC has just as many humans working here as you guys have working there. So every human comes with a whole other set of, unwrapped candy in their pocket. But like read the lead. I'm always thinking about the customer journey. And if I, as a customer, took the time to give you as much data as possible, I'm looking at XYZ. I like this trim level. I do have a trade in. It is XYZ. All of the things, whatever the lead form is that you're asking. And then you call me and you go, are you looking for a car, truck, or SUV? Well,
Right.
I've already answered that. Do you have a vehicle to trade? I've already answered that. Do you need third row seating? I've already answered all of this. Why are you not reading the lead? The customer took the time to do it. So if you'll think about, if you were a customer, would this tick you off?
But
And then
it's the
behave differently.
reverse. I mean, to your point, and it seems so simple to me. I would be more frustrated with the lead that just said, I want the Kia Carnival. I'm like, dang, now I got to figure out all this stuff. Now, if you already told me using a potential digital retailing tool, I want to finance this for 60 months. Here's my down payment. Here's the bank I chose. Here's the payment I submitted. So I must be close to comfortable going, all right, that seems all right. I already told you my trade. I'm like, wow, we're further down the funnel on this one. I love this. Let's go to
Mhm.
work. But yet, to your point, it's just they all, and even in the cadence, they may start out all right, but because sometimes the task list, they're just firing off day 2 email, and that email is like, hey, are you trading something in? And they already talked to you. And it's even, to your point about reading the lead, is not just read it on day 1. 2 days later, I can't remember who Robin is, but yet someone's going to say, oh, I haven't gotten a hold of you. And I'm looking through the lead, auditing it and going, you had a conversation with him 2 days ago. Like, what's going on here? And I don't know if it's the pressure of you got to make 100 calls or whatever pressure somebody's putting on them. But I'm with you. Slow down. These are people. They are not tasks. These are human beings. And I love what you just said. How would you feel if you did that and
Well, we
somebody
we even
disrespected you?
we even adjusted our sweet relish because like it could just go, you hang up the phone and it could serve you up another one, right? And it can serve you and it can start ringing immediately. And we're like, no, I need 2 minutes between the time it serves that lead up and the time it starts dialing it, because I need them to be able to not just read through what the lead is, but read through the rest of the communication that's been had.
Catch up.
Yeah, if
with
that
it.
customer has text back and forth and now they're like, hey, I have to work late today, but I can make it in tomorrow. And you're not even going through and reading all of the stuff that has happened there, and you're going to recall them. And what are you doing? I mean, why are you calling them? Just because a task popped up? Have a reason to call this customer other than the fact that it served up, it was the next thing on my task list to do, or the CRM said I have to call them today. Understand why you're calling them, and remember, as a consumer, again, how frustrated you are when people call you and they don't even know why they're talking to you. I mean, the fact that you could get me to answer the phone, and I'm a boomer, right? Like I grew up with the rotary. And so the fact that you could get me to answer a phone right now is a freaking miracle. So when you have me on the phone, you better have your crap together and know what we're talking about.
Right.
Because like I'm irritated that I have to answer the phone.
But I think that's where, in my opinion, there's a lot of struggles with BDCs, because you can hold people accountable to activities or appointments and what your goal is for today. But sometimes these metrics, like I always say to teams I go into, I'm not somebody who manages metrics. Like I'm not going to sit here and say, you got to send 50 emails and do it. I said, I want appointments. We'll back into those metrics to figure out where the disconnect is. Because if I just keep screaming, I need 50 phone, and Robin, I swear I saw this at a meeting. Someone made 50 phone calls because that was their goal. No appointments. They got shouted out at the meeting. Somebody made 30 phone calls, set 3 appointments, and the person said, come here a minute, you got to make more calls.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm sitting there going, that's so discouraging. But the point is, and again, for those of you listening, we don't want to gloss over this. You have tasks that need to help move you forward. Those are reminders, because we can't, but that's a person. It's not a task. So every time I'm opening this up, I'm saying, where did I leave off? Who is Robin? What's the next thing that I have to do to get a conversation with Robin? That's my only goal, is to have a conversation. So if it's this, that, the other thing, and to your point is, I have to remember everything, but I see it up, task, and then they're just firing these things off so they cleared their task list. But did we really accomplish anything? And more importantly, how many people did we push away because they told me I'm on vacation next week, and 2 days later, hi, I haven't heard from you. Like,
why did you do the task? Well, it's because they didn't do their job right in the first place. They didn't go in and snooze that lead for the time whenever that person, and like literally, like you could have asked that question, that person is on vacation, and go, oh my gosh, I hope you have a terrific time. That's fantastic. What does follow-up look like for you? You're getting back like on Saturday. Would Tuesday be better for you? I'm going to schedule a time to call you back on Tuesday. You'll hear from me then. Have fun. Go enjoy your time.
Exactly. Would lunchtime be best for you? Because, and that's the other thing, is when you're calling all these, there's so much.
Or maybe would you rather me text you?
Or do you want me to text you? Like,
because they can be doing their job and texting.
Oh, absolutely.
They won't answer the phone.
No, this is great. Like that, I could be talking with you alone, but I do have one question that a dealer did ask me again. I had the one from previous, but this person said, yeah, I sort of get the importance of a sales BDC, but what's the difference strategy-wise, staffing-wise, or for a service BDC? And is that something that dealerships are sleeping on by not having a service BDC?
Absolutely. I mean, so the store that I came from had a service BDC as well. And so if you think about, once again, I'm always on the customer journey. If I think about the customer journey, right? And this particular store just dissolved their service BDC. And now if you call the store to schedule an appointment, like good luck getting anybody to answer. So we're counting on now either the receptionist to answer the phone when they call in for service, and then she'll push it over to the service department, and a service advisor, a service writer, if they're not busy, will answer the phone and try to schedule an appointment. And that's just playing defense, right? That's not playing offense. That's just defense. These people are having mechanical issues, or having a problem. They need to schedule whatever to come in, and now you're playing defense. And a service BDC is really good for that too, because that allows the service advisor, the service writer, to be able to take care of the people standing in front of him.
Right.
I have stood at a service department and waited for 15 minutes for anybody to even look up at me and acknowledge that I was standing there. And it was because they were either on the computer doing something or they were on the phone talking to another customer. And a service BDC, and if we think about in a franchise store, right, like those service surveys are so important to what goes on with the money you get from your OEM, right? And so that customer service survey is so important. And how do you deliver top-notch customer service? It is not by letting your service advisors be the first voice that they hear. So that's playing defense. Service BDC playing offense is digging through your DMS or whatever your service scheduling tool is and go, okay, decline services.
Right.
Can we get them back on the phone? Scheduling appointments for those times whenever you know you're light. Tuesday, Wednesdays. We hardly have any traffic in here. We could use more. We could use more hours in the service department at that time, or even for abandoned customers who have never been in for their first oil change. You know, they probably went somewhere aftermarket. Could the offense play and get those people back in? Because we know that if they will do service with you, they're probably going to buy with you again. And so keeping them in that, we'll stay with the Kia brands, keeping them in that Kia store and servicing their even tires. Do you know how many people do not know that their dealership sells tires and they're going to a Firestone or a Goodyear somewhere else to get that stuff done when you could keep them in your service department when it's time for tires? And we know all of this stuff, right? If we're servicing their vehicle, we know when they're at that mileage mark. Why aren't we calling them?
Right.
Why aren't we playing offense and going, hey, it looks like it's probably about time, as if I check your mileage, have you had new tires put on yet? Would you like us to take a look at those? You want to bring that in and see where we're at on the tire tread? I don't know if they measured it last time you were in here, but it may be time for that. And so playing offense on a service BDC can be super valuable. If you think about the amount of ROs that come in versus the amount of sales opportunities that come into a dealership, I think that it's so heavily weighted on the service side, and we're not really taking care of them to be able to predict what that revenue could be if you were playing offense instead of just playing defense on the service side.
So my final question on all of this before we wrap up is, again, that's bodies, that's structure. Where do you see AI fitting into this? And AI, I'm going to just broadly use that term because not everything that is out there really is AI, and there's tools out there, but just some of the tools that you've seen to help support from the sales end or the service end. What are your thoughts of integrating that into a process?
On the sales side, I love AI for this particular piece, not for ever first line communication, not maybe for overnight stop the clock stuff. And I mean, if people are getting off work and shopping for a car at 2 a.m. and they need to be able to get some information, as long as they know that they're speaking with an automated system, that's fine. Truly, they're not expecting that they're talking to a human at 2 a.m. But I think one of the hardest things is that uncontacted follow-up. And AI is so good at just if everything is programmed right, if it's prompted correctly, if all of those are built in there right, at reigniting some dead stuff that's sitting in your CRM that could be brought back and rejuvenated again. And AI is so inexpensive that to put it on a task like that on, let's say, leads not contacted, or they were contacted once and then moved to the dead file, whatever, for whatever reason.
Right.
I think that for cleaning up all of that stuff and looking for gold in your CRM for people who've never actually made a move is really good. I think the same in the service side as well. We have tested out several AI products, and I know that as it evolves, it's just going to get better and better. And it really is just how you build it. AI is only as smart as you build it. It has to know what the conversation flow should look like.
Right.
And so there's geniuses out there building this, right? They'll take they'll set AI inside of your texting tool and go, these are the conversations that are happening right now. And it can learn from that. That's learning AI. And I think those are really good. As long as when a human jumps in, it jumps out. That's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think if it's your co-pilot, I think
Mhm.
it's great. I think the where it's misused is where it says, "Oh, great, now I can fire 4 people and the AI is gonna do this," instead of strategically using
Right.
it as a tool for, off hours, my
Right.
day off, re-energizing leads. So I think that's great. So, well, listen, like I said, I could chat with you forever. This is fun stuff. And I hope, like I said, what I really appreciated today is you gave a lot of very tactical things that people can really look at. Um, Great. So before we leave, I usually ask a few questions and then we'll get all of what's going on with you and the company and where they can contact you. So my
Okay.
first question always is, what are you reading, watching, listening to that's inspiring you that you would share with everyone else?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I started this agency. I started SCP agency and Epic BDC, but SCP agency first on organic social. And so social is my love language all the time. Like if gun to my head, they're like, Robin, you need to talk to Jesus right now. What are you talking to him about? Probably talking to him about social media. Like, 'cause that's what I could talk about all day long. Be like, can you help me answer this algorithm, God? Um, and so, social is really kind of my love language, and it's what I enjoy the most. And I'm literally reading Gary Vaynerchuk's Day Trading Attention right now, and
Yeah, great book.
I'm taking my creative team because we have an entire department that's just dedicated to dealership organic social, and we're going through it as a book club right now. And the changes that are happening, I'm telling you, it's tough. And I understand in the dealership world how tough it is because change is so hard for us. We've been so ingrained for so years, but I'm telling you, I am 60 years old and I consume social media on the regular and I do as because I need to learn it. I need to understand when it's changing. I need to understand when a new platform comes out, what they're targeting and how they're doing that. If you've ever played around on TikTok, you know that you can curate your feed however you want to because it instead of being the algorithm used to be that if you followed this page and that person and you're connected to these people, then that stuff pulled into your feed. And it has changed. It's changed to interest based. So just play around on TikTok for one night and go tune into like 911 calls, right? Like watch a couple of those. The next time you come on, it's nothing but 911 calls are listed in there, right?
Right.
And so you have curated because you said, I'm interested in this. And so it's super important that you understand that when you're using social, when you're using anything like that, that you're understanding where it's going now. Yes, this is the way it was. And we're used to stuff staying the same for like 5 or 10 years, right? But we have learned since 2020 how fast the world can pivot and how fast stuff changes. And if you're not a student of what you do, if you're not learning every day in the area that you're saying you're an expert in, you're just going to be behind. You touched on this earlier, and I meant to go a little bit deeper on it, and I just didn't. I study emails. I study what emails I open. I wonder why I opened that one because I can create the best email campaign for a dealership in the whole wide world. And if they don't open it, if that subject line doesn't get them to click it open,
Right.
so what? So what the inside, it's a beautiful graphic of this beautiful Tacoma. Who cares? They didn't open it because the subject line. So we test subject lines and I study in my email. I'm not going to open it, not going to open it. Oh, that one's interesting. Why was it interesting to me?
Right.
So I will screenshot those and throw them to my team. I opened this one. I opened this one. I opened this one. And then once I get inside the email, did the subject line lead me down a path that I wanted to be on? Did what was inside, was it what I thought it was going to be inside?
Right.
Right. So as a BDC, even going back to that, if you are sending out emails to your customers, what subject line are you using to get them to open it? Because
Right. And
they just
test
see it.
them. I say that all the time. Test them.
Yes, absolutely. And then go, oh, this one worked. We got our email open rates from like a really crappy 12% up to like a 33 to 35% just by testing subject lines. Then our next job was to test the click-through rates, right?
Right.
Once I got them in there now, are they going where I want them to go? Did I get enough graphics telling them click here, here's a button, push this one? And was it a blue button or a green button? Was it a red button or a yellow button? Which button did they all click? And so be a student of what you're serving up there. And then one more thing too, that talking about the BDC that I didn't get to cover, and I'm going to say it.
That's
You
right.
can't you can't manage your BDC by the day. You have to manage them by the hour, right? So they can have a really great 2 hours of the day and then fall to crap the rest of the day. We manage their activities by the hour. So if you're expected to, let's go to numbers. Let's say you're expected to do 20 dials this hour. However, you only got 10. I should see 3 sets on the board. And then I'm okay with it. I don't care if you only had 10 dials if you set 3 appointments. Hallelujah. I'm so happy you got 3 appointments, right? But if you have 0 sets and you didn't hit your dials, we're going to have a problem. And you didn't hit your emails and you didn't hit your text messages. So by the hour, we want to make sure that we don't ever drop the ball for our dealers and get to the end of the day and go, sorry, we didn't set any appointments for you today. We'll try again tomorrow.
Right.
No, I want to know from 8 to 9, where are we at? From 9 to 10, where are we at? From 10 to 11, where are we at?
Well, that goes back to how dealerships used to run is as soon as a dealer left the building, when they came back in, they went right to the log and said, how many people did we have here? It's really, our friend Tim Cox always says you can't sell a car without a conversation. And that's our first point, so it's very similar. It's what are you doing? What are your results? And then we'll back into what you're doing that either helped you achieve the results or what prevented you from the results, and I really like that. My next question is, you travel a lot. You have one place that you haven't been to that you want to go to.
Oh, so I had planned this trip twice. I planned on when I turned 50, I was going to go to Italy. I was even starting to learn the language. I literally wanted to go to Italy for my 50th birthday, and it didn't happen. And then we planned a trip to Italy again for my my business partner Beverly for her 50th birthday. Well, she turned 50 in April of 2020.
Yeah, well, we know what happened.
That entire trip was booked and paid for like that. And then we were like panicking going because they closed Italy first.
Right.
Remember, because that was ground zero, whatever. And so we're like, well, I wonder if we can go to Spain. We'll go to Spain. They closed Spain. Like nobody knew what was coming, right? We thought this is happening in Italy. Is not really happening to all of us. It hadn't happened to all of us yet. It just happened there. And we just kept moving on. We're like, we're just not going anywhere. So next year, Beverly's fiance lives in Denmark, and his 13-year-old daughter has her confirmation in the spring. And so because we're going to be in Denmark for her confirmation, we're going to finally get to go to Italy.
There you go.
All things working out perfectly. That's what's happening finally.
Great. So listen, I really appreciate the time today. I want to talk about one thing before you go, because you have a new product coming out, Social Grenade. So I want to sort of give you the time. I want to hear about it, and then also tell people how they can connect with you online, because again, you're on social media a lot, but also about Epic BDC, where they can find that. And we'll put them all in the show notes, but I want to sort of give you the stage because I'm excited to hear about Social Grenade as well.
So when we started SCP Agency, I'll tell you, I knew nothing about automotive, and I was doing social media for small business owners. This is 2013. Okay. So really, business pages had just come about that businesses could have their own little part of the world. And small business owners, I discovered, really didn't have websites. They didn't have any online presence. They just weren't there yet. And they were doing all of the things, and they needed to be expected to know all of this stuff too. And so I'd been doing social media for our church. I've been helping with that part of it right there. And I just had such a heart for small business owners because I was a mortgage lender that got caught up in the mortgage meltdown, right? Just like everybody in that industry, right? And then I was at 47, 48 having to learn, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I have no idea. And because I thought I would retire doing mortgage, I loved it. And so when our economy crashed, small business owners brought it back. They brought it back to life. And so I really had a heart for them and in helping them figure out how to get more awareness. So we started, at the time, it's called Social Climber Pro. We started Social Climber Pro with the intent of helping small business owners elevate their online presence through social media. And then in 2014, I got invited to quote a dealership, like, tell us what you would charge us to do your social media. So I sent them over a proposal, and they were like, yeah, you have to work here. I'm like, I don't want to work there. They're like, well, we need you to work here. And I'm like, no, I don't want to work there.
Right.
Like, I had no desire to work at a car dealership. And they're like, well, you may know everything that there is to know about social media. I was flattered. But you don't know shit about automotive. And I'm like, well, I didn't know anything about the barber, about the hairstylist, about the commercial carpet cleaner, the shoe boutique, the clothing store, the dentist office, the insurance agent. All of those were my clients already. I didn't know anything about them either. And I learned as we went along, and I learned who their platform was. They're like, nope, you need to work here. So, long story short, I did go to work there. I literally told the GM, I said, you understand, I'll be running my agency from your dealership. And he goes, I don't care. You have to work here. And he made me a manager. I got my MBA in automotive by sitting at the manager's table twice a week, learning all of the ins and outs, the profit centers, the losses, all of that. And I started training salespeople on how to do their own social, how to drive their own traffic. And the ones at the dealership would do great. Like there were some, like I just have to hammer on them all the time and they just wouldn't do it. And at the time, the dealership had us build them out business pages as well. So it'd be like XYZ store and then Josh at XYZ store, Adam at XYZ store, and that would be their business pages.
Right.
And they really struggled with knowing the difference between a profile and a business page. Okay. And I would tell them, you got to post it to your business page and share it to your profile. And they'd get it backwards and they would be like, I did post it. So when I started helping other dealerships across the nation, I would train their salespeople also how to run their own social and generate their own leads. Organic, instead of the yellow legal pad. You have your social media. All your people are right there. And I learned that while I was in front of them, they would do a good job. While I could show them what apps to use, how to put text on top of a picture, they would do a good job. And then the minute I left, they couldn't remember it. And then I went to Utah and I rented studio space. And I thought, I think it's just because they need more time with me and I just can't be there all the time. So I recorded all of the sessions, all the training I would have done for them and put it in Teachable. And I let them have access to it. And then they wouldn't even log into it. And I'm like, God dang it. What the crap? And so after a while, my business just went to the point where I was just like, I'm tired of playing with salespeople. They just don't want to do it. They just don't want to. I'd be so frustrated with them. And so then COVID happened and everybody was a genius and everybody was buying Bentleys and cashing those big checks and loading fat stacks around. And nobody needed to be smart. They didn't need to generate their own leads because they had 3 cars on the lot and everybody wanted it. And it was like, who gets to it first? Then after the adjustment started happening and inventory prices started writing themselves and the chip shortage quit happening and all of the things that we've been through in the past couple of years, it's almost like I have PTSD, I swear. I started talking to some friends again about, I have a friend that works at AutoMax Recruiting and he's like, and he used to be a dealer principal that I worked with his team. And he said, Robin, we really got to start training these salespeople on social again. And I'm like, oh, why? They won't do it. They just won't do it. And I said, you know what? I said, what if I created an app where we would create all of the graphics for them, all of the engaging posts that they need to feed the interest-based algorithm? If we could create it for them, would they use it? And so we started looking at what it would look like to have an app that had automotive-focused content already built into it. The text was already written. They didn't have to think about a thing. They had to open the app and click a thing and post to Facebook, right? So we're like, okay, that'd be great. But still, they can have an app and then they probably won't do it. So I'm like, well, the app will not be enough. So in the process of creating Social Grenade, the whole system, the salesperson will get a daily text prompt. And the daily text prompt may not be go into Social Grenade and make a post. It may be walk out to your dealership and take a walk around video of a white SUV today. It's SUV Saturday, whatever, and hashtag it, blah, 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 blah. We'll give them those instructions every day in a text message that comes out and walk them through what they should do. And I'm like, okay, that's good too. So we've given them the content and now we're telling them how to use it and to do other stuff outside of just the app. That'll be great, except for if they don't use it, what do we do? And so it always comes back to whoever the champion is at the dealership, right? You always have that one champion, which right now, if you're on LinkedIn anywhere, those champions change positions every 30 days. Somebody's like, oh, celebrating a new position at this dealership or move to this dealership. And now your champion's gone. So I'm like, I've got to solve every bit of friction that I can if I want these salespeople to be generating leads for themselves. So we built in performance managers. So Glenn, if you're a dealer and you've decided to bring Social Grenade to your team, you're going to get an email twice a month. And it's going to say, Glenn, Of your 10 salespeople, these 4 are killing it. They're using Social Grenade. You probably can see by their traffic and by their numbers that they're killing it. These 3 right here are doing at it. I'm going to do some more training with them on Thursday and get them a little bit more continuity going with their social media. And then these 3 have never logged on. Friday, I'm dedicated to getting them logged back on again and getting them in the system and using it. Here's your update. I'll give you another update in 2 weeks. And so I've tried to remove every barrier that I could to get the salespeople to start generating their own leads again, because first party leads are, I mean, think about it. You show up at church and the guy who sits right next to you is driving a new Toyota and he didn't even talk to you about buying a car because he didn't know you sold cars, because you don't tell anybody because you're embarrassed that you're a car salesperson, or I don't like social media, or I don't want to do this thing.
Right.
You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to let people know how to do business with you, because he may have got screwed over on that Toyota, and you would have done a good job for him. You would have gotten him a good deal on that Toyota, and he didn't know, so he got raped because he did not know to do business with you. And so them using their social media to develop those first-party leads, and then they're not so dependent on the BDC.
Well, it becomes a partnership. Like we're maximizing everything. We're maximizing everybody's time. We're maximizing the opportunities that marketing generated. Plus, we're maximizing the time for salespeople to generate their own leads while they're there, in between the appointments that the BDC set, in between the showroom ups. You're giving them something else that to them will seem as a process that helps them sell cars, versus going way back to the beginning of our conversation. Here, just call this list of people, and they're going, well, that doesn't work for me, versus why don't you call your friends? Why don't you reach out to your people? Post something to your network, so that everybody knows you're in your circle of friends, you're the automotive expert. They're the one, they go call Robin first.
I mean, you know what? Michael Cirillo did a good post on LinkedIn the other day. And I mean, I learned something from it. He literally was like, you know what? He said, put the name of your city in the search bar on Facebook and look at all of the groups that are associated with your city, and then join some of those groups. But don't go in there and spam them. Go in there and be part of that online community, so that when somebody needs a vehicle, you're in that group and they're like, oh, you should tag Josh. Josh is the guy. Josh does blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. But that goes back. Jonathan Dawson talks about that as well, is like really building out your network of people.
For sure. And it all starts with, will you use the device that's in your hand and look at it as a tool? The one salesperson at that dealership I first started at, the one salesperson that just killed it. Like if I told him to do something, he did it. Like when Facebook Live rolled out and I'm like, Josh, you need to be on Facebook Live. And he was like, okay, how do I do it? I'm like, I walked him through how to do it. He was like live every day. If he was coaching his son's little league, he was live. And he's like, I'm not at the dealership right now, but message me any questions you have right now. Slade's out here killing it on the baseball diamond, blah, 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 blah. Right? He did so good with it. And he got to the point where he never took an up, ever. He never took an up. Matter of fact, the rest of the team was upping his clients. They'd go, nope, I'm talking to Josh on Facebook right now. Where is he? And so that's where you want your sales team to get to. And if you could get 30% of them to that, you'll be, 10 to 15 car sales ahead.
Absolutely. There's always missing opportunities. So so Robin, tell everybody how they can contact you, where they can find more about Social Grenade, Epic BDC, SBC Agency, and you as well.
Absolutely. Actually, if you want to text me, 417-629-8006. I have 0 texts in my inbox. I don't ever let them go unread, and I respond to everybody. But obviously, I'm on Facebook. I'm Robin Wilson on LinkedIn. Social Grenade app is on every social channel out there also, if you want to learn some more information about that, as is Epic BDC. So we got the socials covered if you want to find us, but my email is robin@socialclimberpro.com.
And we'll put all of this in the show notes. So Robin, thank you again. Really enjoyed this. I love talking with people, and next thing you know is like time just flies and you're going, oh my God, we've been going for a while. So anyway, audience, let me just read you all out. So again, the show today, thank you so much for the team here at Black Swallow Studios, and also Connor Pasch from PCG Digital, who helps produce the show. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, click the notification, because every week we post new episodes with fantastic guests like Robin to help you get better. So this way you're notified. Please share it out. As Robin said, there's a lot of great information. I'm sure there's someone in your network that could benefit from this, so please make sure you definitely share it out. And I want to thank you all, because I know there's a lot of shows out there that you can watch. The fact that you spent time with Robin and myself means the world to me. So as I say at the end of every episode, you're in charge, but now Robin gave you a few more tools to help you become the leader that you want to be. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. Robin, can't wait to see you in person.
Me too. Bye.
Take care. Bye.